All right, Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, Happy Hanukkah. Welcome, good to see you. Special welcome to Zachary and Sophia Sparks becoming B'nai Mitzvah this weekend, although they really halachically became B'nai Mitzvah a year ago when their ceremony was originally scheduled. But here we are, and they're going to be doing all kinds of stuff a little bit tonight and much more tomorrow. All right, we are going to begin, how about on page 5. Yismechu Hashamayim, let the heavens rejoice and the earth be glad. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tager haaretz, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, U'melo'o, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, U'melo'o. About page 8, Or Zaruah Latzadik, light is sown for the righteous on this festival of light. Or Zaruah Latzadik, O Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zaruah Latzadik, O Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zaruah Latzadik, O Yishrei Lev Simcha. Or Zaruah Latzadik, O Yishrei Lev Simcha, O Yishrei Lev Simcha. All right, let's jump to page 12, Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Lehar Kodsho. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Lehar Kodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu Lehar Kodsho. So before we get to page 13, I'd like to welcome some of our southernmost and northernmost members of our congregation. I'll explain in a second. So first of all, come all the way from San Diego, we have Jonathan and Beth. So thank you to Beth Searle and John Schuster. And then, so oddly enough, our B'nai Mitzvah come from very far, actually, to be a part of our congregation, from Richmond. And then, so everyone near Richmond is here. So, and I know it's just coincidence, but of course, our board greeter is Deborah Hoffman-Way, and Ruth and Uli, also coming from from Richmond area. We just need Sagi here as well, our winemaker who lives in Richmond, who by the way has his own, he works for the Covenant Winery, but he also now has his own wines. A Pinot Noir and like an orange-colored, like a Sauvignon Blanc, but it might be a different grape, but he left the skin in for longer, so it's like almost an orange color wine, and it's very good, and he's getting some good restaurant play. And I wish I could remember the name. Maybe just called Kleinlehrer Wines. But anyway, so maybe he'll show up. I doubt it, but still. The rest of our northernmost members, great to have you here all at once. And perhaps you can get together for a Shabbat dinner sometime in the future. And even though we love that you come down here, you can just hang out closer to your area. All right, page 13, Mizmor LeDavid. Mizmor LeDavid, Avol Adonai Melim, Avol Adonai Kavod Vaos, Ay, Avol Adonai Kevod Shemo Ishtachavol Adonai Be'avrat Kodesh, Kol Adonai Al Hamayim El HaKavod Yirim, Adonai Al Mayim Rabim, Kol Adonai Ba'koach, Ay, Kol Adonai Ve'echadar, Kol Adonai Shover Arazim, Vayshaber Adonai Et Arzei Alvanon Vayarkirem Kemo Egel Lebanon Ve'esirion Kemo Venreini, Ay, Kol Adonai Kotev Lavot Eish, Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai Yechol El Ayalot, Vayechesod Ye'arot U'mekalot Kulo Omer Kavod, Ay, Adonai Lama Yashav Vayishev Adonai Melech Le'olam, Adonai Os Le'amo Yikten, Adonai Yevarech Et Naro V'Shalom. Hey, ay, nay, 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 It will be on page 15, Lechado D. Now, it's always hard to recognize people with the masks on. DJ, is that who I'm looking at right now? Okay, good. Welcome, David Joseph Gottner. Good to see you. And welcome to your friend as well. 15. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Shamor v'zachor v'tidbor echad, Ishtianu el hamichad, Adonai echad Shemo echad. Tiferet v'li'ila lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, Ki imekol ha'veracha, Rosh mikedem nesucha. B'machshava tchila lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Bottom of 17. Yamin usmol tifrotzi, ve'et Adonai taritzi, ani arish ben parzi, ve'nismecha v'nagi la 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 likrat gala, v'nei Shabbat nekavela, Alechadodi likrat gala, v'nei Shabbat nekavela. We rise and face the entrance, welcoming the Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam v'simcha u'v'tzola, toch emnei am zula, boi kala. Lechadodi likrat gala, v'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lechadodi likrat gala, v'nei Shabbat nekavela. You may be seated. We say to any mourners, may God comfort you with all the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We're on page 19. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov leodot leAdonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, le'hagid b'boker chasdecha, ve'emunatcha b'adonai, alei asor ve'aleina vel, alei gayon ve'inon, mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov leodot leAdonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Continue silently. Tzadik tamar yifrach, kerez balvanon yizkeh, shetulim beit Adonai bechatzro, yafrihu od yenuvun beseva, deshenim verananim yehu lehagid, ki ashar Adonai tzuri velo avlatavo. Adonai melach yod lavesh Adonai osita zar, Atikon tevel baltimo, nachon kisacham meaz v'lam ata, nasu nerot Adonai, nasu nerot kolam, yisu nerot ohyam. Mikol mahim rabim adirim, mishpereyam adir bamaron, Adonai, Eirotecha ne'emnu me'od, Neveitecha nama, Kodesh Adonai, me'orech yamin. Please rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch le'olam va'ed. We can be seated. Baruch et Adonai le'olam v'chalam. Asher bivaro ma'ariva ravim. Re'yom v'layla. L'or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or. Ma'vir yom u'mevi layla. Ma'vil ben yom u'ven layla. Adonai tzva'ot shemo el chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv ha'ravim. page 24. Page 25, we're going to call on our B'nai Mitzvah, Zachary and Sophia, to lead us in Shema Ve'ahavta together.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, ve'chol levacha, u'vechol nafshecha, u'vechol me'odecha, ve'hayu ha'dvarim ha'eleh, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom ha'levavecha, v'shinatam v'lenecha, v'dibartam, v'shivtecha v'beitecha, u'lechtecha b'derech, u'shoktecha b'kumecha, u'shartam leot al yadecha, ve'hayu letotavot b'neinecha, u'chaftam al mezuzot beitecha, u'b'yisharecha. Dasher Koach.
L'man tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'yitem kedoshim le'echem, ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem eretz Mitzrayim le'ot lachem Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem, emet. Adonai Elohechem, emet. Page 32, I'll once again point out that Michamocha, the first letter of the first four words, spells Maccabee, which may be where the Maccabees got their name. Mi, Ka, Mocha, Ba'elim, Adonai, Maccabee. מלכות טוב רצון קיבלו עליהם, משה בני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נגר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עוזך אלה, מלכותך ובניך, בוקע ים לפני משה, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כפני את יעקב, גמר חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. 33. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו, לחיים ולשלום, מעתה ועד עולם. Let's start on this side of the room first. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Nishalom. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Nishalom. Hashkivenu Malkeinu Lechayim. Salenu sukat shlomecha, baruch atah Adonai, aparei sukat shalom aleinu v'kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Please rise for the Shamru. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael, Hashabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. בנים בן ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. שמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. Page 35, the Chatzi Kaddish, led by Sophia.
V'yikadal v'yikadash shemerava. Amen. Ve'amal yivrach v'yotev v'amlech malchutev. V'chayechonu yom echad. V'chayedecho beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, u'izman karim. Amen. Ye'eshe rabba mevorach. Le'olam olam le'olam yibarach. Yibarach v'yishavach v'yipa'ar v'yitramah v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalel v'yitalel. Shmei kedusha. Le'elom yekol berchata b'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiram le'alma. V'meru.
Amen. Yasher Koach. Okay, the private Amidah begins on page 37 and goes to 48. However, when you get to the Modim Anachnu Lach part, there's going to be a note that says on Hanukkah, go to page 275 for the special Hanukkah Al Hanisi, the prayer about the miracle. Actually, also on 43, there's an extra prayer you do for Rosh Chodesh too. על הניסים ועל הפורקן ועל הגבורות ועל התשועות ועל המלחמות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. For the miracles, for the redemption, for the mighty deeds, for the deliverances, and for the wars that you did for our ancestors in those days at this season. We're going to do the short form of the repetition of the Amidah back on page 49. ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor HaNara El Elyon, Kodesh Shamayim Va'aretz, Magen Avot Bidvaro, Mechayei Meitim B'mamaro, Ha'el HaGadosh She'ein Kamohu, Haminiach Le'amo, Yom Shabbat Kodsho, Kivam Ratzah Lehaniach Lahem, Kivam Ratzah Lehaniach Lahem, Lefanav Navo B'yirav V'pachad, V'nodeh Lishmo B'chol Yom Tamid, Ein HaBrachot, El HaHodahot, Adon HaShalom, Mekadesh HaShabbat, Uvarech Shavi'i, Umeniach B'Kedusha, Ne'amikdush Ne'oneg, Zecher L'Maaseh V'Reishit, Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu Retzei, V'Mnuchatenu, Kadshenu B'mitzvotecha, V'ten Chelkenu B'Toratecha, Sameinu b'tuvecha, v'samchenu b'shuatecha, v'taher libeinu le'avdecha be'emet, v'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ahava u'v'ratzon Shabbat kodshecha, ve'anuchu v'Yisrael, Mekadesh Shemecha, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Kaddish Shalem, page 53, we call upon Zachary to lead us in that.
Yikadal v'yikadal shemei rabbah.
Amen.
V'yamad yivrach yirteh v'yamlech malchuteh. V'chayachonu v'yamechonav kayedef o Beit Yisrael. V'agalam izman kari v'yimeru.
Amen. Eshtei rabbah v'ora. Ve'olam kol ve'almaya yikvara.
Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramah v'ynaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalosh shmei kudusha. Ve'ela mikol birchata v'sfirata. Tishbechata v'ne'amata damiram yoma v'yimeru.
Amen.
Yikbatzalot tehon v'vachot tehon. Techo Yisrael kadmao v'hon dib shemaya v'yimeru.
Amen.
Yehesh lamaraba min shemaya. Uv'chaim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yimeru.
Amen.
Yaseh shalom b'romao. Yaseh shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yakol Yoshvei Tevel v'yimeru.
Amen.
Yasher Koach.
Yashkoach.
All right, Zachary and Sophia, you're looking good already for tomorrow, and there'll be much more. So, we are now in our third week of what will be a very long project of Friday night talks on the history of Temple Beth Abraham, mostly based on obscure letters that I found in obscure files of people who left the synagogue between the 70s and the 90s, or 60s through the 90s. But I'm doing the beginnings first that aren't necessarily from those letters. Now, before I get to today's subject in particular, which is the Berkovich family, I also want to let you know of a really exciting thing that Karen and I got to do, and members of the JCRC, set up by the JCRC, the Jewish Community Relations Council, this week, which was we did a tour and a lunch and a session in Oakland Chinatown with the sort of civic leaders of the Oakland Chinese community, and particularly the Oakland Chinese community who live and work in Oakland Chinatown. And just to figure out ways that we can get to know one another better, work together more. There's no tension between the communities. It's just trying to figure out how we can just be together more as part of our community. And a couple just very fascinating things that relate to our history came out of that. So Oakland Chinatown is where actually the Jewish community was at one time, which was basically between the Posey Tube and about 10th Street in downtown Oakland. And I made a mistake, more than one actually. I thought our first building was where the Posey Tube is now. Our second building I thought was 9th and Harrison, but it's actually 8th and Harrison. And I don't know quite what is on that corner. Not a church that was the synagogue, because the synagogue took over the electric building and it was only for a few years. Anyway, also learned from the Oakland Chinatown community that they did two things modeled after the Jewish community. One of which is they started a Chinese cultural after-school program modeled on our Hebrew school programs, which they still have today. It's run as a nonprofit, and tuition revenue, it's not a revenue maker at all, but it's to keep Chinese cultural heritage, around. And the second thing they did was they did an Oakland Chinese home for parents, basically, what we used to call a home for the aged. And they didn't just model that after the Jewish community, they consulted with the Jewish home for the aged in Oakland when it was off of Fruitvale. Now, they did something right that I feel that we did wrong, but demographics are a funny thing. Jewish community predicted all the Jews are going to move out way through the tunnel. They're going to all move out to Danville, San Ramon, Pleasanton, so let's build the home out there. Instead, the opposite happened, and young Jews moved back to Oakland, and their parents are moving back to Oakland to join them, and if they want to go to a Jewish home, they have to go a lot further out. So they stayed within, we moved out, they made the right call, we made the wrong call. That's just the way it goes. Demographics are much less predictable than you think. Because if they were really predictable, you all would have bought condos in Oakland as well, and you'd all be rich. Anyway, a little bit about the Berkoviches. Now, I mentioned last week, this will not be the last time that I mention the Berkoviches either. The Berkoviches are the founding family of Temple Beth Abraham, specifically Abraham and Bertha Berkovich. Tonight, this week is Abraham's yortzeit. So I'll be reading the names tonight, which is really nice. And so Abraham Berkovich, as you know, most of you know this, I'll say it one more time. We are Beth Abraham, named after Abraham Berkovich, because when he died, his wife Bertha said, I will give you the money if you name the community after Abraham. So you should also know that Abraham was actually a founder of Beth Jacob Synagogue before she was the founder, really, of Beth Abraham. Beth Jacob was founded in 1893, Beth Abraham in 1907. Abraham was president of Beth Jacob in 1903, but then there was a break-off. It was more a cultural break-off than over a particular issue. They were the Poles, we were the Hungarians, and that's kind of how it came to be. Abraham and Bertha had 10 children. They lived at 776 Harrison Street. You can look up the names of the children, but the ones that sort of became prominent in the Oakland community, at least that I know of, was his son David, who went into the auctioneering business, and then two nephews, Harry Berkovich, who went into the cigar business, and Ed Berkovich, who went into the furniture business, Berkovich and Sons. Ed is Sam's father. Ed is also Sam's son, who was named after Sam's father. So Sam is I believe it's his great uncle, Abraham and Bertha, that's his great uncle and aunt. And Sam would tell us that he remembers, that he was held in the arms of the great Bertha Berkovich. Now, just a little bit about, so the Berkovich family is still around in our congregation. Sam and Ellen are the ones that a lot of us know. Unfortunately, they've died within the last, 2 to 6 years. Ellen a couple years ago, Sam maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. They met on the steps of Temple Beth Abraham, right there on MacArthur Boulevard, and there's a little plaque that commemorates where they met, became a couple. I believe it was during the high holidays, and he was on his transistor radio listening to the World Series. It might be legend, but I think that is the case, but it might be conflating a few different things. Sam was probably one of, if not the most beloved member of the synagogue. He's just a sweetheart, a peach of a guy. And so known for his good humor, also known for his furniture store, also known for baseball in Oakland. He supported all this youth baseball that became competitive in the end, and he coached almost all these major leaguers who became, little leaguers who became major leaguers, including Frank Robinson, Veda Pinson, Kurt Flood. Really famous people. Frank Robinson credited Sam Berkovich. He took the knife out of his hand and put a baseball glove in it instead. That's one of the things that the great Hall of Famer Frank Robinson said about Sam. Sam was also known as Al Davis's best friend, so he was a football guy as well. And if you ever see videos of Al Davis in the box, there's a guy next to him, and it's Sam. And Al was not known for being the nicest, friendliest, warmest human being on earth, and Sam certainly was. So they were kind of a yin and yang pair. And I know this is not all about me or really anything about me, but because of that connection, gave me one of the greatest thrills of my rabbinical career, which was conducting the funeral for Al Davis and having all those famous Raiders of the 60s, 70s, and 80s right here in this sanctuary. So anyway, that was a little bit about that. Now, it goes on. I'm going to end. I know I'm coming to an end. But
No, keep going.
So Sam's son, Ed, and Darlene, their sons are Brandon and Michael. Brandon is a member of the synagogue, so it's multiple generations, and their daughter Emma calls herself Emma B, because there was another Emma at the time in the preschool, so she's known as Emma B. They're members. She's in our Hebrew school. And just yesterday, I welcomed Michael's youngest daughter, Samantha, into the covenant of Judaism and gave her Hebrew name at the mikveh at Beth Jacob, where Abraham was once the president, and of course was the name of the synagogue. So it was a Berkovich week. I felt like I needed to talk a little more about the Berkovich family. So that's tonight's Temple Beth Abraham Oakland history lesson. All right. All right, we are going to now rise for the Kiddush, and we can find that on page 55. And Rebecca and Will and Zachary and Sophia, come on to stand right here at this table. One of you hold this. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu mitzvotav l'ratzonu v'shavat kodshו g'avad ratzon impilanu zikaron l'ma'aseh bereishit ki hu yom tehilah l'mikrayim kodesh Zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim Ivanu b'charta v'irtanu kidashta Mikol ha'amim v'shabat roshcha ata Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim to life. All right, so hands on the heads of your beautiful children. Yisimech Elohim k'Ephraim v'Kim Menashe. Yisimech Elohim k'Ephraim v'Kim Menashe. Yisimech Elohim k'Sari v'Kara v'Eveleah. Yivarecha Adonai v'Yishmerecha. Yimer Adonai v'Navelecha v'Yikunecha. Yisad Adonai v'Navelecha v'Yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God lift the divine face toward you and grant you peace. Amen.
Amen.
We remain standing for the Aleinu, page 57. Aleinu l'shabeach Adonai kol ha'tei kedula le'otzer b'reishit shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aretz shelo asanu k'goyei ha'adama shelo asanu k'elkeinu kahem ve'yor aleinu k'kol ha'adam v'anachnu korim u'mishpachamim u'modim Liknei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu notei shamayim ve'yoser haaretz u'moshev yikaro b'shamayim mimahal u'shchinatu zo v'golei miromim u'Eloheinu einod emet malkeinu Hakatu betorato v'yadata hayom v'hashivota el levavecha Uha Elohim b'shamayim ima'al v'al ha'aretz mitachat einod Katu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'chaya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz v'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. We may be seated as we lovingly recall the memory of our departed relatives and friends whose yortzites we observe during the coming week. We're thinking especially tonight of Yitzchak Antebi, Abraham Berkovich, Samuel Bernstein, my grandfather who I'm named after I never got to meet, Mark S. Bloom, David Friedman, longtime president of Temple Beth Abraham, Mendel Friedman, who you will hear about in subsequent weeks, Jacob Friedman, Morris Gelfand, William Heger, Blanche Jacobs, Jacob Kerbel, Leslie Kessler, who you will likely also hear about in future weeks, Sidel Kilman, Norman Kleinman, Jacob Cronrod, Bessie Gvint, Morris Levitt, Robert Lopez, William Malakoff, Shirley Silverman Margolin, David Mayer, Ethel Mayer, Benjamin Millman, Alfred Month, Raymond Nagar, Davy Ormsby, Harold Reed, who you'll also hear about in future weeks, Israel Rogers, Alice Rosenstein, David Rosenstein, Gerald Schoenblum, Fanny Shapiro, Sam Silver, Melvin Silverman, Robert Searle, Joseph Spiegel, Shirley Weiner, Elliot Weinstein, Frida Zilberberg, we're in the Shloshim for Molly Hirsch, Sid Horwitz, Marie Lorenz, Martin Rosenthal, father of David Rosenthal, and our thoughts are most definitely with you, David. And we're in the Shiva for Michael Rappaport, the father of Jamie Rappaport Berry. The memories of all who are with us, we ask all those who are in mourning or observing Yortzeit, as well as anyone else who would choose to do so, to rise for the mourner's Kaddish. It's on page 61. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayechon beit Yisrael. Bagala v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehesh mei rabbah v'orach le'olam l'omei almaya. Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vitpa'ar, Vitromam, Vitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shmei Kutsha, Barichu, La'elam, Kol Berchata, Vishirata, Tushbechata, V'nechemata, Damiran, V'yama, V'ibru, Yehei Shlama, Rabba, Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru,
Amen.
Oseh Shalom, V'imrama, Uya Se Shalom, Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen, Zikronam, V'varcha. May the memory of the people you come to take out of your blessed be all. Let's say,
Amen.
Okay, some announcements. Tomorrow at 9:30, Shabbat services, our twins, Zachary and Sophia Sparks, will become B'nai Mitzvah. It's going to be a long service because not only are there two of them, but there's 3 Torahs. It's Hanukkah and it's Rosh Chodesh. Hallel. So,
Yay!
it's exciting. And services have been, we've spoiled you. They've been ending quite early for the last year or more. Not tomorrow. Okay. And let's see, what else do we have happening? On Sunday, there is a Hanukkah program, concert with Isaac Zones and Trio, and crafts at 2 p.m. There's also something at Piedmont in the morning at the Piedmont Community Center where the Glebieers will be performing. So that's exciting.
It's called Dreidels and Donuts.
Dreidels and Donuts, yeah. 10 a.m. in Piedmont, that's Sunday. And you can get tickets at the door. Monday is Warriors Jewish Heritage Night at 7 p.m. But you may have already had to have bought tickets for that. But it's still exciting. Thursday, WTBA is the launch for Faith Kramer's cookbook, 52 Shabbats. It's getting some excellent publicity already. This one's wrong, okay. It says Kabbalat Shabbat service with BBYO at 6:15 p.m. in the sanctuary, but it's not. It's in San Jose, so,
That's a faraway sanctuary.
Exactly. And, Minyan, Torah study, all that's happening as well. And Shabbat Mishpacha next Saturday, Filat Yiladim tomorrow. Those are at 10 a.m. I think that's it for the announcements. Mahjong is going to be happening, right?
Second and fourth Saturday.
Second and fourth Saturday, coming back to after Kiddush lunch. So pretty exciting. All right. Some closing songs tonight. 2 of them. So, at this point in the holiday, Hanukkah, Ma'od Sor, a little tired of, so even the Adam Sandler Hanukkah song, you're tired of. So we're going to do the 4th Adam Sandler Hanukkah song tonight, as well as Ocho Candelicas. So we're going to start with that one, which is in Ladino, which sounds a lot like Spanish. Hanukkah linda está aquí, 8 candelas para mí. Hanukkah linda está aquí, 8 candelas para mí. Oh, 1 candelica, 2 candelicas, 3 candelicas, 4 candelicas, 7 candelicas, 6 candelicas, 7 candelicas, 8 candelas para mí. Muchas fiestas voy a fazer con alegría y placer. Muchas fiestas voy a fazer con alegría y placer. Los pastelicos voy a comer con almendricas y la miel. Los pastelicos voy a comer con almendricas y la miel. Oh, candelica, dos candelicas, tres candelicas, cuatro candelicas, siete candelicas, seis candelicas, siete candelicas, ocho candelas para mí. All right, so a little nod to our Sephardic roots. All right, and this one is, like I said, Adam Sandler Hanukkah song number 4 with certain edits for all different kinds of reasons. So these are more modern, stars, but pop culture changes so fast that there's already a need for another one. But put on your yarmulke, here comes Hanukkah. It's so much funica to celebrate Hanukkah. Hanukkah is the festival of lights. Instead of one day of presents, we've got 8 crazy nights. So when you feel like you're the only kid in town without a Christmas tree, here's the 4th list of people who are Jewish. Just like Jesus, Olaf, Punky Brewster, Scott Rudin, and me. Joseph Gordon-Levitt enjoys eating kugel. So does Stanley Jake Gyllenhaal and the 2 guys who founded Google. Adam Levine wears a Jewish star. So does Drake and Seth Rogen. Goldberg has a gold yarmulke to match the belt he won from Hulk Hogan. We got Scarlett Johansson. Talk about a kosher crush. And if you need her higher voice, how about Kitty from Rush? Kitty Lee! We might not have a cartoon with a reindeer that can talk, but we also don't have polio, thanks to Dr. Jonas Salk. One smart Jew. Put on your yarmulke, it's time for Hanukkah. Harry Potter and his magic wandika celebrates Hanukkah. Not actually Harry Potter, that's Daniel Radcliffe. Anthony Goldstein is the only obvious Jew in the Harry Potter series. He's in Ravenclaw, by the way, if you've never heard of him. Jared from Subway, yeah, unfortunately, he's a Jew. But guess who's Jewish and maybe can fix him? Love Lines, Dr. Drew. Princess Leia cuts the challah with Queen Elsa from Frozen. David Beckham is the king of soccer studs and also a quarter chosen. From New York to Ironica, get up and celebrate Hanukkah. Don't mess with the Hanukkah. Let's all get along for Hanukkah. So read your Hooked on Phonicas, and if you really want to, have a happy, 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 happy Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah. Shabbat Shalom.
Yes. This year I will have several of the